Hi, it's Elwin again, and I'm here with Philip McClusky, the creator of the Get Juicy program, the 10-day juice cleanse, and the world's sexiest diet, as well as all sorts of other books. He's been on CBS's The Doctors. This man has just a towering figure in the raw food, health, weight loss world, and he was just interviewing me on the whole subject of being a victim and moving beyond that. And now we're swapping places, and I'm interviewing Philip about what's beyond being a victim. So thank you so much for joining us, Phil.
Thanks for having me, Elwin. I really appreciate it, and I'm excited about the subject.
Excellent. So I was recently listening to a program all about self-esteem and self-worth, which was really interesting to me, and it talked a lot about moving beyond this place of being the victim. And they said something really interesting there. If you're familiar with Anthony Robbins' work, which I know that you are, Phil, he talks about how all human activity is basically based around avoiding pain and getting pleasure. Right? So our definition of pain may be, everyone's definition of pain is different, everyone's definition of pleasure is different, and that's why we're all different. But that's what we all have in common. But what this contributor was saying, which was interesting, is that you actually move beyond that at some point, and you move into a life of purpose, right? Where it doesn't, pleasure and pain aren't so important. You're not just always trying to avoid feeling bad. You're not just always trying to feel good. You're on the next level. It's like you've graduated, and then everything you do has purpose. And I know this is a really big one for you. You sign all your emails to me with the sign with purpose, Philip McClusky. So I was wondering if you could talk to us a little bit about, first of all, maybe sharing your own journey. Like, when did you discover this distinction about how crucial living a life of purpose was?
Yeah, great questions, Elwin. Thank you. So it's interesting. So my journey started probably about 6 years ago, and I remember the day I was standing on a scale, and the needle on the scale literally went to 400 pounds, which, depending on where you're from, basically the conversion is I was twice the size of a large man. And of course, there's a lot of health issues and risks and stuff like that. And when you have that kind of weight, and I was literally cutting down my life, I was unhappy, I was depressed every day. There was times where I thought I would never lose the weight, and I was just going to have to be happy being fat for the rest of my life. I used to kind of think that I would have to program that in my mind. It was so funny. I remember thinking to myself, I watch TV shows, and there's overweight people on TV shows, and they seem really happy. So maybe I should just be happy too, and realize that this isn't going to work in this lifetime. I'm not going to lose the weight. And that's a pretty scary thought. And I sat with that for a while, but there was a certain sense of hopelessness that started coming up when I thought about that. And I was like, wait, this isn't right. And there's something I must be missing. And basically I say hopelessness because you have to understand I had tried 30 different diets by that time. I had tried every single thing that I could think of, and nothing had seemed to work. I'd almost gone with gastric bypass surgery where they're cutting me open. So I was feeling quite hopeless. I didn't have any of those procedures done, and I ended up switching to a healthy lifestyle, which I know we're both advocates of now, but and that changed my life. So what happened in between those two stages? How did I end up losing over 200 pounds and leaving my job of 11 years to pursue my passion? How did all that happen? Where did the change happen? And it's an interesting thing because believe it or not, food, I believe, was the catalyst for that. And you say, and I've had this conversation with people, and they say, how does food be the catalyst? Well, it really was awareness was the catalyst, but I believe that food was the foundation for awareness. And so what I mean by that is I was just so unconscious about the way I was living my life before, the things that I put in my mouth, the way that I acted, the way that I thought. I was a victim. I was overweight because my dad was, because I came from an Italian family, because a lot of people in my family were, just in my DNA, thyroid, big bones, like any excuse that I could use to lay down as to why I was the way I was, I'd come up with it and think about it instead of realizing what the real reason was. I was seeking love. I wanted attention. My parents separated when I was 5, and I felt confused and lost, and I just was lost in the world, and I wanted something. And so for me, I was in a tailspin because I was just eating so much, upwards of 7,000 calories a day, just fast food for 2-3 meals a day, that I literally could not even think. I was just so clogged up. I mean, my system, my colon, my bowels, everything. My mind was so unclear and confused. I was so tired that I would fall asleep on my keyboard at work during the day and wake up with like drool coming out of my mouth on the keyboard. I mean, it wasn't a good scene, right? So I definitely was sitting in that victim role really, really well. But what happened is as I started to change my diet and eat healthier things, literally I wasn't eating foods that had chemicals, herbicides, fungicides, pesticides, larvicides, chemicals, dyes, poisons, genetically modified. Like imagine living a lifetime of that, which most of us have, and then removing it from your body 100%. And what I mean by 100% is I switched to 100% raw vegan diet, and that was just my personal choice. But basically, I just ate fruits, vegetables, nuts, and seeds, nothing processed, nothing dense. And so what happened is after I started eating a clean lifestyle, started incorporating juicing into my diet and different things like that, I noticed the fog started to go away. And more than that, I started to have more awareness around situations that came up. And more importantly, I started having awareness around my own situation and how I was living my life in that moment. I saw my unhappiness. I saw me step on the scale that day and think to myself, how many people do I know that weigh 300-400 pounds, that are morbidly obese, that are old? Nobody. They're dead. They're dead. And I'm heading to death right now in this moment. And so in a moment's time, I was feeling a lifetime of being the victim, and it started to fade because as I was starting to eat clearer, I was starting to think clearer, and I started to understand, the decisions. And for the first time in my life, I said, oh my God, I don't want to be 400 pounds anymore. Because I recognized in that moment's time that I was either saying yes to life and everything that it had to offer and just embracing it with open arms, or I was saying no to life and I was going to die and I was going to remain the victim and I was going to hold on to that story or that narrative that says you've been overweight your whole life and your father and your background and all that stuff, which isn't true. It's true, but I don't have to hold on to it. So I can choose to hold on to it, or I can finally let it go. And so for the first time in my life, because of the diet change, I actually had the clarity to see things as they really were. And that's how I like to see it, because back then I wasn't. I was just, when's the next meal? When's the next feeding? When can I bury this pain that's inside of me? When can I, I'm looking for love. I'm looking for consistency. The food provided great consistency, because, when I was unhappy, if I ate a large pizza, it would do the same thing every time. It'd get me tired. It'd get me feel, I wouldn't really think about it. I'd have this rock in my stomach, and it was consistent. And I was looking for some kind of consistency in my life, but I wanted to feel really empowered and strong with this new kind of comfort and consistency. And it was interesting just noticing that food was the catalyst. So then after I had the awareness and started recognizing the decisions I was making and even stepping on that scale, I had said, okay, I'm ready to make a change. And all it takes is just one thought. And as long as I am consistent with that thought and consistent with that action, that's where I can get real power, and that's where I can have real, long-lasting, effective change. So in that moment's time, I decided to switch my diet. And I know this isn't a story about diet, but that's when I decided to live on purpose. That's when I said, okay, the food that I put in my mouth, I'm doing this with intention. The thoughts that I'm thinking today, I'm doing this with intention. I'm thinking these thoughts today. Yes, I could choose to concentrate all day on it's so funny, you often hear this story about our thoughts. So many times people are like, oh, I visualized being abundant today for 30 minutes. But then the other, 23 and a half hours in the day, I thought about my debt, know? And so I just started cleaning up all different areas of my life, my thought, my exercise, my health, all these different patterns. And I started to notice a revived passion for living started to really come up out of nowhere. And of course, anytime you combo that stuff with weight loss, it's going to get you pretty excited. Exercise, which is naturally just, gets the endorphins going. You just feel great when you exercise, right? And then combine that with a new passion for life, and it's like, it's like the trinity of goodness. And really that's when things started to change the most. But it really was the food that was the catalyst, clearing things up, and then it was recognizing, because now I had this new clarity, and then taking immediate action. And I had switched to 100% raw vegan diet, and that was my particular action that I took. But I had did that overnight. So literally 7,000 calories, fast food, 2-3 meals a day, to fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds overnight, because my will was in line with something new. And it didn't take willpower, it just took my will. And it was, and I always say it was like a switch went off in my mind. It said, okay, you no longer eat, think, move, or live like this. Now you live, eat, think, move like this. And
that switch for you was purpose, right? It was. I was wondering where you're going with the whole purpose thing, but I see exactly what you're saying. I think that before you were doing things and they were without purpose. So I'm just eating, I'm just drinking more soda or whatever, and I'm not thinking about it. I'm not thinking, why am I doing it? And then the switch you made is that after that point, everything that you did, it was for a purpose rather than purposeless. Is that right? Am I getting that?
There definitely was a certain unconsciousness that was kind of draped over my entire life experience for my first 30 years. So it was just fumbling around. It wasn't, you know, why am I here for? What am I doing here? How do I contribute to the world? How do I give back? What makes me excited? What am I passionate about? How do I love myself and other people? How can I improve? All that type of stuff was it was something that I was discovering as it was coming to the surface, but before, it was just bumbling around, and then all of a sudden it was each action. You know, I heard it best said like this. I think it was in a Karate Kid movie, actually. Mr. Miyagi was talking to Daniel-san about sweeping the floor outside in front of the bonsai shop, and you know, basically you can sweep that floor with such purpose and such intent that you're fully present. You're in the moment. You can be fully excited and happy sweeping that floor because you're doing it with an intention. It's a floor. It needs to be swept. There is an actual purpose to it. But you're just enjoying life. And you're enjoying all those little things that get added onto it and being in that moment. So whether it's cleaning a floor or cleaning toilets or what have you, or pumping gas at a service station, or whether it's, you know, having your own raw food business, or whether it's, you know, being a speaker or what have you, it's just saying, okay, I'm going to give my 100% to that, and I'm going to thrive in that. You could sweep the floor with such grace and such presence that you might look angelic, you know, and seem otherworldly because you're such in your zone and you're such in your space, and you're doing and living with real intention instead of kind of just fumbling around to the next thing and the next thing. You know, one's kind of living based on reaction, other things happening and you reacting, and the other things, and then the way that we're talking about is based on creation. You recognizing your purpose and going strong after that, and starting to really create the reality and the life that you want to live.
That's amazing. And there's a certain percentage of my clients who really struggle with this, I would say, with this issue of purpose and meaning. And can you clarify, I mean, do you have to have an exact goal in mind? Or is it just, is purpose to you more of a feeling? You know, do you have to have a vision of exactly where you're heading, like in a box? Or is it more just that you feel purpose while you're doing what you're doing? How does it work?
Yeah, I personally feel that it can be a combination of both depending on who you are. So for example, like a man could be very left-brained and might be in that strong business sense, and his purpose might be very much intertwined with structure and organization and, you know, business and left-brainedness, and have some real solid purpose to bring, you know, to have employees, you know, who you can pay on a weekly basis, or to contribute something back to the world, and that person has some real intention. But somebody else's purpose might be to be the best mother they can be, to be the most amazing father that could be, and maybe really that's your purpose in this lifetime, to create the most amazing family unit, to just love on your significant other, to spend time with your children. Maybe there's some healing in there for you in that process. Maybe you've been rushing your whole life and it's time to slow down. Maybe, you know, so I believe everyone's purpose is different. In regards to that, I believe our general purpose to be on this planet is to have an amazing human experience, is to enjoy it with happiness and presence, and it's to have a good time. Basically, I don't think stress it doesn't need to be in our purpose. But so, does it need to be something specific, like I need to be a motivational speaker and this, and that's my purpose in life? Yeah, I believe that can be it for some people, but others, I feel that it's much more lax, because somebody else might feel like, for example, if somebody said to me that their purpose was being a painter, that seems like so, well, I'm going to say easy of a purpose for me, but for them, that might be everything. That might be their life. To me, that seems fun because I'm more left brain, and so I'm creating structure, and there's things around my purpose and stuff like that. But it's just going to be different for everybody. But more than anything, you're feeling in integrity, feeling alive when you're participating in whatever that thing may be, and feeling that it's right inside of you. We all get that little check inside of us, and some people call it different things. Some people say it's a spirit, some people say it's intuition, some people say it's your conscious, whatever you want to call it. But we all get that little bit of check that says, this is it. This feels good. This is right. Man, how do you feel right now? All I can do is picture my future and think about exciting things and all the things that are to come when I'm in this. And so you might be a mom and you might be thinking about how beautiful your kids are going to be raised, or how how you're going to homeschool them, or how you're going to take Billy out to teach him how to garden today. And like that might be your excitement for that day. And mine or yours might be, creating some empire or some business or offering some service, or and that might be ours. So whatever that thing that's calling out to you that makes you feel like you're living a full life, I would be inclined to say that that's your purpose. And so many times I hear this, hear the wording about, so many people say, I want to live a long life. I want to live a long life. And I think that that's great. There's nothing wrong with living a long life. But I'm more in, my intention is to live a full life. And that could be long, could be short. Actually doesn't even matter. Long and full would be fantastic.
Yeah.
But the idea of a full life and no deathbed regrets, going for everything, living with passion. And you can even kind of hear it from my words. Like if you're not thinking to yourself, man, I live with passion right now. Just even that thought, that feeling, that energy inside, just even me saying that, man, I live at passion. This is like, there's probably another layer of depth that you could go with discovering your purpose. Because when you're really on fire and you're shining like that, that's what you wake up thinking about. That's what you go to sleep thinking about. That's what turns you on. That's what gets you fired up. That's what gets you excited. That's what gets you out of bed in the morning, is that purpose. And some people, it's, completely just giving back. Their purpose is to serve for this entire life. And I believe that's generally that's our purpose for most of us in general, but some people specifically will just serve their entire life, and that's their purpose. And once you find that purpose, man, everything else just starts to really line up, and you start to see those synchronicities happen all the time. Like, you're in the right place at the right time because you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. And I just met that amazing person, or this happened, or that happened, or if it's as simplistic as being the best mom, and I followed my intuition and I did this, and now my son just got a free class in doing this, or whatever that may be. Life really starts to show up in a different way when you're living on purpose, because more than anything, you see the world around you with different lenses on. It's like taking off those dirty glasses and wiping it off with a rag, putting it back on, feeling fresh, new, like you just took a shower and were cleansed inside and out. And like now it's just like, wow, this is my calling. This is what I'm going to do. And it's funny because it's become a bit of a catchword as of late. There's been lots of books about purpose and purpose-driven life and what that means and stuff. But a lot of times we find ourselves reading it and getting excited about it, but not taking action about it. And it's cool to read the stories and it's cool to get pumped up. But a lot of times the action has to do with sprinkling it with a little dose, in my opinion, of self-love. Because there are people that know the dynamics of this. They know, okay, I'm not a victim. They know, okay, I need to live on purpose. They know that. They know they need to take action to get there. But they don't actually love themselves enough to feel that they're valuable enough to even have that experience. So they might have the book knowledge about it. They might know how to make change and stuff like that, but they're not making change. And every time they go to make change, it's just kind of like fighting against a raging river because the self-love isn't there. And it's just like, do I even deserve to have an amazing life? Do I even deserve to live on purpose? Do I even deserve to be excited? And of course, when I initially say that, so many times people would be like, oh, of course you do, you know? Yeah, that's the initial thought, but sometimes the purpose can get lost in that bit, and we forget that, we even deserve this. It's our birthright to be happy and live on purpose and feel excited when we wake up in the morning and excited as we go throughout our day. And so that's just an interesting thing to look at, because a lot of times if we're finding that we're struggling with purpose, is to see how we really feel about ourselves and if we deserve that purpose, and if not, maybe do some self-love exercises or work on that a little bit more.
Excellent. So let me pause you there for a minute, Phil. Okay, so I think that's brilliant. I mean, you've given such a passionate, purposeful demonstration of what purpose is. That's excellent. So that really covers the what, as far as I'm concerned. You know, if anyone was watching this, there are no doubt now as to what purpose is. But for those watching who are still feeling, okay, I get it, Phil, I'm hearing you, I see that you have it, I want it, but there is something blocking me. Maybe it is like a lack of self-love, self-worth, self-esteem, something like that. What can I do about it? You know, what would you recommend? What are those self-love exercises that you were talking about?
Sure. Well, a couple things that I usually get right into. First of all, which is what helped me, is diet change. Diet change will help you get on purpose. It's simple. The clearer you are, the clearer you think, the clearer your body is, the clearer you think, the clearer you're able to come in line with the things that you've been destined to do before the beginning of time. It's just removing the fog.
And is this like basically, it's also a way of showing yourself self-love, right? Because if you eat garbage, that's a way of saying, I don't like myself, I hate myself, I'm poisoning myself. And if you eat really the best quality food that's available to you, that's a way of saying, I love myself, I honor myself, I respect myself, right?
Absolutely, you know, because I mean, when I was overweight, I mean, after I stuffed the 4th hamburger in my mouth, I mean, literally stretching my stomach to the point of pain. Obviously, I wasn't loving myself in that moment. I wasn't feeling that I was deserving of it. I wasn't feeling that I was deserving of healthy food. There wasn't any priority there. I'd spend money on other things, but I wouldn't spend money on food because I physically, you know, or mentally did not think I was worth it. And so as I started to eat those healthy and healing foods, it changed something. It was just the first time I went to do it. It was immediate action of self-love. It's just like, I'm choosing this over this. Whoa, where's that come from? You've never done that. Why is that? I mean, I literally liked 4 vegetables when I first started. It was crazy for me to think I was going to make that switch, but it was the first start of me making steps towards self-love. So the food choice is that, but sometimes there's still a little something that has to get you to make that food choice. Yeah. Right? So where's the love that gets you to love yourself to have a salad instead of a burger? So I actually had learned about the simple step of affirmations at the time. And you know, some people get into them, some people don't. I'm all about reprogramming my mind. So I do that with a lot of visual cues, and I do that with a lot of verbal cues. And so 2 of the things that I did was, I used to just affirm myself. I would literally stand in front of the mirror, and I remember the day that somebody kind of pushed me to do this. They said, stand in front of the mirror, look at yourself, and say, I love you. And I was like, what are you talking about? And I finally did it. And I really got into it. And I would be like, I love myself. I accept myself. I appreciate myself. And in the beginning, I didn't believe it. Of course, it was just lip service to myself. And sure enough, in time, I started to believe it. I started to feel it. It started to resonate through my body. I started to go throughout the day and whistle and was excited. And it was something that I had never experienced before. So then I said, how can I really create a trigger out of this? I want to create a trigger so this makes a permanent imprint in my memory. So I love this feeling and I can continue to love myself the way I was. And so at the time I was jumping on something called a rebounder, where it's a mini trampoline, right? And what I decided to do was I was jumping on it and I was building up my stamina. I had gotten up to about 45 minutes on the rebounder. And so what I decided to do was play a game. And the game was, for the entire time I was on the rebounder, I could only verbally out loud say positive affirmations about myself. So literally for 45 minutes out loud, I was just saying positive things about myself, even if I had to repeat things over and over. So it wasn't just I love myself, I accept myself, appreciate myself. Then I kicked it to the next level. I eat the best and most amazing foods ever. I love eating fresh fruits and vegetables. I attract the best friends in my life. Business deals come to me easily all the time. And you can just have fun with that. You can just play with that. And of course, in the beginning, I didn't know what to say. And I was just nervous. And even though there was no one around, I was still nervous because I was exercising love muscles that were pretty out of shape. And so now here I am really going into it. Next thing you know, 45 minutes, I'm doing it and saying affirmations to myself the entire time. And when I get off, I'm on fire. But not only that, I've done something else. I've done something behind the scenes. And the thing that I did behind the scenes was I created a trigger. And the trigger says, now whenever I jump up and down on my trampoline and exercise, because I'm saying affirmations the whole time, I automatically feel good. I'm excited. So now I think exercise equals good, exciting, right? And then while I'm jumping on the trampoline, I'm feeling all those loving feelings. So it just continuously reaffirms. So now I've found a way to not only affirm myself, but a way to incorporate exercise and create a permanent trigger. So many times we have triggers that don't serve us, like me living in an Italian family, smelling pasta all the time, thinking that pasta has to do with family or with love, and then literally walking into a house and just smelling it, and then having the trigger kick off and me wanting to go have pasta, right?
Excellent. Phil, it brings about a really important question, which I think you just touched on there. I think probably the hardest thing for people when they try and get on purpose, like you're talking about, is other people. Especially the other people that they're close to. So, for you in your example, when you first started, you didn't have a peer group of supportive health professionals like you probably have in your life now. You had a load of people who probably didn't get it and probably weren't living on purpose to the degree that you decided that you were going to be. So, for everyone watching this now, I think most of them probably have that issue. And I know you've had some success in this area now, right? Because I know your mom has like a green smoothie every morning. I know your sister's into this kind of thing. A lot of people in your life now are into this. So what do you suggest when you first get on purpose and then no one else around you seems to be on purpose? What do you do about that?
Yeah, so one of the things that I recognized in loving myself and learning the process of loving myself more was that, I guess, how do I say this? Is I have to put myself as the priority in my life. I'm not responsible for anybody else. I'm responsible for me. I'm responsible for my actions. And I'm responsible for my life and for my own happiness. And you're right. When I switched to raw food, I didn't know anybody that was a raw foodist. I didn't even know anybody that was a vegetarian. Everybody I know ate fast food, lots of meat, lots of junk, lots of processed food, chips, crackers, snacks, all that type of stuff. Very, very unhealthy. So I didn't have any support. But there's something interesting that happens. When you're trying to operate out of willpower and you're trying to operate out of struggle and fighting and those types of words and feelings and emotions, it's hard. And sometimes you definitely do need that support, and that it's almost crucial. Sometimes it can't be done without it, it seems like. But I feel that when you've really come into what I would call a true alignment, and you really feel that you've aligned with your will and that you feel that you're living on purpose, those opinions start to mean less and less. Now, of course, we all care about what our family members, say and think and stuff like that. But I recognize that my priority in my life, the priorities in my life had to change. Therefore, I had to put some of my thoughts and my feelings into action. And so what I'm saying is I had a lot of there was even a little bit of aggression, but I had a lot of tension in regards to my switch. Some people didn't understand that I was eating healthy. There was, like we mentioned, no support. Some of my friends really thought I was doing myself a disservice. They'd even prepare meat for me every time I came over, and I'm like, I'm not eating that anymore. But they really thought they were helping, but basically it was no support. And, I just recognized that in the past I had done so many things for other people because I loved other people and I always put them first, and it just didn't see my value, really. And this time I was seeing my value. I was living on purpose. I was shining, and I was recognizing, okay, other people might not agree, and that's okay. Because even so, I'm going to stand. And I feel that's a really strong and powerful word, that the idea behind what it means to stand. And when you feel that you're in line and you're in your integrity and you're operating out of your authentic space and you find something that lights you up, don't ever let anybody's words draw you away from that, because then you're starting to think more about what they think about you instead of what you think about yourself, you know? And we're working on self-love. We're building up those love muscles here. So we want to continuously think about that. So that's when you're kind of faced with opposition. What if there's no opposition? What if you just don't have support and you want to make a change? You don't have any family members, you don't have any friends, and you're ready for some action. I'm all about getting connected. One of the biggest things that I'm really into is having an accountability partner, having somebody you can check in with, whether it's business, whether it's your own personal actions that you're looking to clean up, whether it's your exercise, your health, whatever that may be. Somebody just call up and say, hey, what's going on? You know, da-da-da-da-da, done. Sometimes it's not even that. Sometimes you still don't have anybody to call, and you just need to show up at events, show up at groups. When I first started, again, I didn't have any support. I would force myself to go to like a raw food meetup group or a group that was meeting up in the area. Didn't know anybody, and just push myself to go to potlucks. I had never gone to really in and out of New York City. I live outside of New York, and I remember forcing myself to go to like Central Park to a raw food group that was there. Things that were about what I was interested in. Things that were about what my purpose was. And I started to see where other people were living on purpose in the same area, in the same part of life, and what have you. And I just said, okay, let's line up with them. Because let's face it, you're not always going to be surrounded by people that are going to support your purpose. You're not always going to be around people that are in line with you and even have the same beliefs and thoughts and drives as you. So it's not to say that you're kicking people out of your life, but it can be very, very helpful to find those that are going to be supportive of that. And sometimes you have to reach outside of your circle to really find that. And then once you get that, you know, I mean, I don't actually hang around. I mean, I'm in and out of places now, but I don't actually actively hang around tons of people in my industry all the time unless I'm going to an event. But I live out in the woods. I live out in nature. And that's what I enjoy. So I don't necessarily need to have all that in your life, but when you're first starting to really discover that purpose, it's really helpful and beneficial to have that kind of just at least an accountability partner, for one, and then for two is if you don't have that, get out, show up, get involved, have fun. You meet like-minded people, just makes the transition a bit smoother. And then next thing you know, you've got even a stronger foundation for that drive and that purpose and what you're going for in life.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Phil. I mean, that's been really helpful. It's been really interesting to hear about your life with purpose, and it's interesting to feel the purpose radiating off you when you talk about purpose. You know, and I hope everyone watching that has experienced the same thing. Not only have you had Phil tell you about this, you've also had an active demonstration of exactly what purpose feels like and what purpose looks like. So that's awesome. Thank you so much.
You know, it's so amazing. You know, I'm not really into sports, or you know, I'm only into some certain specific things. But it's so fantastic when you see somebody living their purpose. One of the greatest things I love to do is I don't generally watch any sports, but I love to watch the Olympics and things like that. And you seeing somebody give every single thing that they have, you know, whether it's business, whether it's being the best mom, whether it's just running a race. And that's what they're doing in that moment. And that's what I want to be doing in every moment, where I'm just feeling on fire and alive and happy and in love with myself, with others, and just ready to go, ready to have the human experience, being open and available for everything, saying yes to life and embracing all that comes to me.
Thank you, Philip. Thanks so much for sharing, you know, your wisdom and your joy with us, and for being such an active embodiment of what you're talking about. It's fantastic.
Thank you, Elwin. Appreciate the interview.